What's going on, fam? Welcome back to the channel. In this box, I have the DS Lite Acros 3 in a beautiful white and sea glass colorway. I'm very excited to show you some of the updates that they've made, although pretty minor, to this fantastic mesh-based football boot. Now, the unboxing experience is very standard for all the Asics products. You get the brown box with the big blue Asics logo on the front, little Asics logos all the way across each side, and then of course here is your sizing. So these are a half a size down from my normal 9 US. For most of the DS Lite series, I like to go half a size down just because it gives me the most snug and secure feeling fit. These are an 8.5 US, a 7.5 UK, Euro 42, and a 26.5 centimeters. So this is a boot that I could theoretically go true to size with. I think most people can be okay with either. If you have a thinner foot, I would probably recommend going half a size down to achieve like the best possible fit from a length perspective. That being said, I like to go a half size down just because I like my boots super, super snug. So it's up to you at the end of the day, but that's at least what I like to do. So getting these unboxed, I am so pumped to see what these look like because in pictures, oh my days, guys, this color is so beautiful. Awesome. Okay, so getting some really nice soft material there in the upper. This is such a cool football boot for a lot of reasons. As you can see, it's the same sole plate from the DS Lite X Fly 5, which is of course one of my favorite boots of all time. You have a very similar heel area as well. So let's get into some of the tech specs. Unfortunately, no string bag with this one, per usual with the Asics products. Unfortunately, they just don't include them, which is, I think it's all right. It's not the worst thing in the world, but I would love to have a string bag with these, even though, to be perfectly honest, I end up throwing them all away or I usually just donate them, like send them to a Goodwill or something anyway. But it is a nice, it's nice for the unboxing, if anything. So these are a beautiful white and what they like to call sea glass, which is this sort of teal aquamarine or like blue colorway, and then it's a little bit more of a green tinge here for the Asics logo. Very, very cool looking football boots. Now, these are based on the Acros 2, which was a really nice football boot by all accounts. Definitely a boot that I enjoyed playing in. It is a synthetic, completely synthetic boot. Pretty soft straight out of the box. This is what's called, this upper is basically what's called mesh jacquard, or I don't know how to pronounce that, but it's JACQUARD, which is essentially a circular knit. And this particular circular knit pattern basically adds breathability and improves structure and durability. So it's actually the type of knit, the particular pattern that this upper is knitted as is called mesh jacquard, and it's like a mesh-based synthetic knit material that gives the boots some breathability, but also some really nice structure and stuff, so you aren't gonna have a bunch of overstretching. Plus you have the Acros fit system, which as you can see is pretty noticeable on the outside of that mesh jacquard upper, which is basically the non-translucent white material that runs along the lateral and the medial sides, although the medial side is a little bit less, just one stripe here, one stripe there, of the upper to get a really nice kind of locked in system, or basically structure, along the lateral and medial sides of the boot. Now, as you can see, per usual with the Asics products, these follow the same kind of construction as the DS Lite X Fly 5. So you've got the basically like four lace loops on the tongue, which will be really, really cool. You've got a pretty thin tongue with a suede liner on it, and then you've got a really nice wide and deep lacing system, which adds to the customizability of a boot that obviously is fully synthetic. And so with a fully synthetic boot, it's one of those things that you really want the ability to be able to, during the break-in process, you want to be able to kind of loosen or tighten different areas of this lacing system in order to get a really, really nice fit straight out of the box. And that's going to help a lot with this, especially because the Acros fit system is very secure. Like, it feels very nice on feet, at least in the second generation of the Acros. And I think this is going to be a really nice boot for a lot of people. Now, if you weren't a fan of the leather, and you didn't want even the synthetic leather of the limited model of the X Fly 5, this boot is basically a all sort of knit slash synthetic model of that boot. The shape is almost identical. You have the same last, so the same sole plate with the rivet here on kind of the striking surface area, and then the rivet here, which is great for durability and build quality. Really nice conical stud layout. You've got 12 total studs. The sole plate is very, very nice and snappy. You've got tons of rigidity through here. And then you've got this same heel area from the X-Fly 5. So the X-Fly 5, the X-Fly Pro, and the DS Lite Acros 3 all share the same heel area, which is a really, really amazing suede material. And then it's not as, how would you say? It's not as long as it used to be. So it's a little bit wider and a little bit lower. It actually makes no difference to the wrapped feeling of my heel area, at least on the X-Fly 5 and the X-Fly Pro 2, but I am interested to see how this will feel given that it's an all synthetic boot now. The synthetic is quite thin as well, so you are going to get, I hope, that really, really nice and soft synthetic sort of knit feeling, which is really nice. So you're going to get a great, hopefully a really great experience there. Generally speaking, between the DS Lite X-Fly 5 and the DS Lite Acros, both of those models are like the leather and the synthetic version of essentially the same boot, and that's not the DS Lite X-Fly 5 and X-Fly 5 limited edition, which is the exact same boot, except the material is slightly different, right? This is like, it's the same last, it's the same shape, it's the same everything, except this entire upper is basically it's gonna feel more like a mesh than a knit, put it that way, at least in the second generation. And I imagine just based on like the feel of it and the feel on the inside, it's definitely gonna feel more like a mesh-based upper as opposed to, let's say, like a GX or even a Phantom GT or even like a Under Armour, why am I forgetting the name of this boot? The Shadow 2. So anything like that is obviously going to feel like a knit material, so it's going to basically shrink to the shape of your foot, whereas something like this is much more of a relatively predetermined shape that's going to have more of that kind of synthetic-y mesh, sort of lightweight, elegant touch on the ball. At least that's how the second generation fit and felt on ball, and it was really, really nice. The texturing on the upper isn't super significant, but I think you will find the idea is that it will give you just a little bit of extra texturing and control, kind of like as a control element. Let's see, I'll do a little sound test here. So it is fairly significant, like, yeah, so there is definitely some texturing there to the upper, but I am really curious to know how the playing experience differs, because I already know that the heel area, the shape, and the stud pattern is absolutely perfect for my foot. I love them. It's one of my favorite stud patterns and everything on the market. Now the question is, does this kind of mesh-based, mesh jacquard, if you will, stretch and mold enough to accommodate my shape of foot, and how does it compare to the DS Lite X-Fly 5, which is basically the same boot, but obviously the leather and synthetic leather version of this one. So without further ado, let's hop into the on feet portion of the video, and we'll talk about sizing, we'll talk about fit, and we'll go through which one I would recommend depending on what your priorities are in football boots. All right, fam, out here in the backyard, very excited for this section of this review. This is the first time I'll be trying on the brand new Acros 3. Now, Acros 2, which I reviewed many, many months ago, this was like probably 2.5, 3 years ago now, those I got in a 9 US, and they fit slightly too long, just like the DS Lite X-Fly 5. These are built on the same last. It's the same sole plate, so the fit and the shape is basically identical between these and the X-Fly 5 series. X-Fly Pro 2 is slightly different because of the sole plate, and also the shape is a little bit different, but between these and the X-Fly 5, I will be doing a lot of comparison between those boots. But I went half a size down, similar to those boots, because I think in an 8.5 US, these are gonna be incredible. So let's get these on feet, and boy, do they look incredible in this white and like seafoam aquamarine colorway. Very, very excited for them. They feel like they're gonna be just very tight, I think, when I first put them on, but I think they are gonna feel pretty good as I break them in. There you go. All right, whoosh. Yep, very tight straight out of the box, but that is to be expected. This mesh jacquard upper with the Acros fit system is so snug and tight. The benefit, though, of the way that this boot is constructed is because of how thin this tongue is and then how wide and deep this lacing system is. I have so much adjustability to where if you look here really closely, so if I go like this and just pull them tight enough, not to really pull the laces any tighter, but just right as they tighten up, okay, like that. I'm really not making the boots any tighter. And then I do a little magic, yippee-ki-yay, like that. And yes, there is an extra lace hole, which I will use at some point. 8.5, look at that. Length fits perfectly straight out of the box. Width feels good. Yes, they're tight, but they are a synthetic boot, so they will be a little bit tight straight out of the box, but they feel so good. Oh my days. This mesh jacquard upper feels great. There's not a ton of flexibility in the upper quite yet, but I imagine that as I do break them in, they're gonna feel really, really nice. And but so far, shape and sizing is excellent. So would highly recommend going half a size down, whether you have a wider foot or a narrower foot, to get the kind of the best possible fit. And then we'll kind of wiggle my toes up into the forefoot of this one and get this on as well. A little bit tighter there on the right side. Ooh, there we go. Perfect. All right. Yep. Same idea on the right side. So again, not pulling the laces tight, just pulling them until they're flush with my foot. And that way, that's kind of how I tie my laces when I first break the boots in. And then I tie this one pretty tight so that it holds my foot, kind of like pulls these pieces tight so that this section right here through the midfoot can kind of be a little bit looser. And then this section here will pull my foot back into the heel to prevent any sort of slippage and stuff while playing. But there you go. There's the boots on feet. They look fantastic in my opinion. What a beautiful pair of football boots. The heel area on these is absolutely incredible. DS Lite X-Fly 5 and X-Fly Acros, or DS Lite Acros 3. This one and the X-Fly 5 are easily my favorite heel areas on the market because of how comfortable they are and how moldable they are to any foot shape. I think you really, really have to be, you really have to have an awkward kind of heel area to not fit in these. These are like, I don't know what they've done, but it is absolutely wizardry. And I think honestly, every other boot manufacturer just needs to copy what Asics has done here because they're that good. So here's a full look at the boots. The Acros 3 fits incredibly well. The sole plate is one of my favorites on the market. I think the Neo 4 Beta series sole plate and the X-Fly 5 Acros 3 sole plate, two probably of my favorite sole plates on the market, bar none, because you have the conical stud pattern, which is amazing. You have a tiny bit of kind of that feeling of getting up on your toes, but without it being aggressively kind of upward shaped, if that makes sense. A lot of boots mess that up where they go really aggressive toe lift to get that extra snappiness, but I think Asics has, if you can see, I'm not flexing my foot at all. So you've got a little bit of toe lift just to give you that little bit feeling of like, okay, push off, nice. But as you're kicking the ball and as you're making any sort of movement where you're trying to point your toe, the flexibility of the sole plate has just enough where you can actually flatten your toes down, which is how you get that technique to kind of get up and over the ball to knuckle it or to get top spin or whatever. So the mesh jacquard, which is this entire upper, feels very, very thin. This is a mesh upper that feels thinner than a knit material because it's a mesh. So it's got a little bit less structure to it and a little bit more kind of thinness and a little bit of that textured stickiness to it, which is awesome. And then the Acros fit system feels absolutely incredible on the midfoot. My foot feels super locked in and feels really like no issues at all moving side to side. One of the things that I think would be interesting if they did like an iteration of this mixed with the X-Fly 5. Like, what if they had the mesh in the midfoot with the Acros fit system with the leather of the X-Fly 5 in the forefoot? Like, that would be insane. Or they did the Acros fit system with the leather or the synthetic leather, I guess, of the DS Lite X Fly 5. I don't know, something cool like that. But the toe box area honestly fits really well. As you can see, it is a little bit on the narrow side. It does come to a point a little bit, but definitely neutral enough that I think most people are gonna find this to be perfectly suitable for their foot. It's not as narrow as the X Fly Pro 2, which has a much more kind of narrowed shape as soon as you hit kind of the knuckles of your toes. And then it really gets kind of pointy, which is why those aren't as comfortable, in my opinion, than the Acros 3 and the X Fly 5 series, just because these have a much more neutral shape. As you can see, the boots are already starting to soften up. This mesh jacquard upper has really softened up already. And one thing that I love is all the little details are perfected in this boot. So you have this insole that has a little bit of support here under the foot, under the medial side of the midfoot, under your arch, which is awesome. And it also has this material or this coating on the underside of it to where whether you're wearing grip socks or not, you're really going to find that your foot is stable underneath, or excuse me, in the boots. Then in basically every single area of the boot, so you have this micro suede lining on the top or on the underside of the tongue throughout this entire section here. And then basically from here all the way around the heel, you have this beautiful suede material. And so as you're moving around, as you're pivoting and doing all sorts of like aggressive turning movements, you're really not going to get any slippage out of the boots, which is amazing. And that's why the Asics brand has done, the Asics Japan has done such an incredible job with their regional variants of boots, making like the most incredible boots for just the consumer, because you have all the right pieces. They're put together in a really nice way. They're comfortable. The sole plate feels good. It's a boot that just kind of disappears off of your foot. Like you just don't even notice it anymore. And playing in it, the sensation of moving around in them feels so good. And I'm talking about just like any of their Japan variants. So I'm talking like X Fly 5, X Fly Pro 2, X Fly 5 Limited, Acros 3, like any of these boots are just like, they're so good, and they're really undervalued and underrated outside of the Japanese market. I'm actually, as of the filming of this video, I'm actually meeting with the head of like Australia Asics product design for football, and we're working on what kind of boots to bring down to Australia from the Japanese market. And so that is super exciting. And I'm really hoping that they'll bring the Acros 3 down, because I think this is definitely a boot that a lot of the Australian and Oceania market would really enjoy, as well as the American market. I think these would crush in the US. And I think the DS Lite X Fly 5 would crush in the US, because it would give the Morelia Neo 4 and Neo 4 Beta like a proper competition to go off. So anyway, that's going to be it for today's review of the Acros 3. You will absolutely see a playtest and 1 month review of these, because these are so good. I'm probably going to play some games in these as well, because they just fit incredibly well. And I love the Asics brand for everything it does from a football perspective. I think they're just absolutely crushing it right now, at least in the Japan market and Asian markets. So like the video if you got value from it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you guys want 20% off of your WeFoot grip socks, which are of course the grip socks that I'm wearing right now, these are the thin version. You can get thick or thin. You get 20% off anything you order from their website using code NOAH20, or if you click the link, it should automatically basically apply the discount to your order. So you can go check that out as well. As always, be awesome. Take care. I'll see you guys in the next video.